Hi there. Following a previous video on worst weapons where I looked at some of the weird and wacky offerings in the field of self-protection, I did mention that I would do a video giving what is, in my opinion, the best weapon, or at least a decent alternative. So here we are, and we're going to talk about the use of the stick as a self-protection weapon. And just to recap, the stick is arguably our oldest weapon. In ancient times, we picked up a piece of wood, a branch, to defend ourselves, to hunt, to fight, and that evolved eventually into all the tools that we use. Man is the tool-bearing animal, and the first tool was a weapon, and the first weapon was either a stick or a rock. So we have been using a stick for innumerable thousands of years, and it's the weapon we are most familiar with. So it does make sense to utilize some sort of stick for self-protection. Of course, there can be problems with this. Police officers obviously have long been equipped with some sort of baton, but for the civilian these days, it may seem at face value that it's more of a difficult concept. However, it's not, because if we look back in history, there have been times where the carriage of a stick has been very, very common. And for example, the gentleman's cane, which was carried as an essential accoutrement to his status, and he could use it to beat off any ruffians he encountered. And that lingers on. You can go onto the internet and you can purchase yourself a gentleman's cane, a walking stick, that kind of thing. The other alternative is an umbrella. Not the collapsible type, but a sturdy, full-size umbrella, tightly furled, used in the manner that we're going to be talking about, is a viable weapon. There are many systems for the use of the stick. There is Bojutsu, Jojutsu, various forms of Kobudo, the Filipino martial arts teach various forms of stick fighting. The French, Lacan, which I saw a demonstration of in Paris in '72. These are all systems, and if you study one of those systems already, then you're already well versed in how to use the stick. So what's offered here, I would suggest you have a look at, and you might consider adding it to your existing methods. However, for those people who haven't experienced a formal stick fighting program, the following should give you a grounding in some methods which I think are the most applicable. There are several books available, and I'll put a link to one or two of them here below, which you might find useful. And I'll also put a link to a place you can buy a decent cane. Now, you probably may need a plausible excuse for carrying a cane or a walking stick, so to avoid accusations that you're carrying an offensive weapon. And I do know of one very notable martial arts instructor in the United States who arranged with his doctor to be given a document saying that he needed to use a cane, and so he had the ability to defend himself at a very high level, who's already highly trained in stick fighting at all times. Okay, the advantages. One of the problems with a self-protection weapon is access. If you're carrying a pistol that's in the holster, you've got to get it out, possibly in fight under stress. And if you're carrying it concealed, that becomes even more of a difficulty. Similarly with a knife. The cane and walking stick are already in your hand. You're carrying them all the time. It becomes part of your natural equipment as soon as you leave the front door, and it's in your hand. You don't have to think about access. It's an extension weapon, 20 inches to 36 inches, gives you decent extension, keeping people at bay, particularly if they've got some sort of edge weapon. It enhances speed and shock impact. However fast your hand can travel, the end of that stick is travelling faster, and it focuses the force, particularly sticks that have either a ferrule or have some sort of taper built into the end. And you can use graduated force, so you can strike to areas which are not going to cause significant damage, but will nevertheless hopefully deter the attack, but if necessary you can use very high levels of force. So we will show you a couple of types of stick, but basically you don't want anything cluttered. I don't really like handles. They can get in the way, they can catch on clothing. I prefer just a plain end to it, because then you can do butt strikes, reverse strikes, just using the end. Obviously umbrellas do have the hook, and there are suggestions in some of the training manuals to use this to ensnare a limb around the neck to pull him off balance, around the ankles to aid a throw, and so on. If you're trained in a system that does that kind of thing, that's fine. I'm not including it here in this video because it's makes the whole thing more complicated. So, hope you enjoy what follows. Okay, selection of the cane or walking stick. This one, which is just belongs to the gym, is a bit short for me, but it's a very nice stick. Okay, it would need to be this long, really ideal for me. The stick should, your hand should be about there. This is one I've just bought commercially, and it's very nice, made of chestnut. The only problem is it's too tall. I'd actually hate to meet the guy this fitted. It should be about that length, it'd be perfect. I could saw it off, I suppose, but I mean, I'm only using it to demonstrate and for training purposes. Has a ferrule. It seems to be knobbly where the chestnut buds have been, but actually it doesn't matter. It doesn't impede anything. The pull cue thrust or whatever. It's quite nicely made, and I'd probably cut that off. Don't need it. No handle, nothing to get in the way. So something like this wasn't expensive. You could use. Okay, walking stick, innocuous, normal, nothing special about it. The two ready positions we're going to talk about is one where you just hold it across your body, like so. Again, it doesn't appear threatening, and in fact, it tends to disappear into the lower peripheral vision of somebody who is intent on you and delivering a message to you. And then the more aggressive position, which is more for an actual encounter that you know is happening, is the on guard position. And here the weapon is aimed at the throat or the eyes of the assailant. The grip can be either way, like this, and you can thrust very quickly. And when you thrust like this, there's very little depth perception. The guy just sees the tip. Okay. So, as you've seen, the bayonet thrust, which is the first thrust really in the system, is a committed strike. Two hands, maintain the grip. This way you can use almost anything, any piece of wood, branch, tool, whatever, and you lock into the target, just like thrusting with a bayonet. This is tight to the body, you're putting your body behind it. Okay, now the second thrust is the pool cue or the snooker cue thrust, where it runs through your leading hand. It's a fast jab to the target. Okay, and it's used in situations where you're going for the more vulnerable points. Okay, so the snooker thrust or the pool cue thrust, it's very rapid, not giving them a chance to grab the weapon, and you can do a follow-up strike of any type. You can follow it with a bayonet, you follow it with a low line, whatever you need to do. Another strike which is useful comes from the Fairbairn syllabus, and it's usually delivered from this neutral position, and it's called a rake. And I'll demonstrate it, and I'm going to demonstrate it with a foam baton because I don't want to damage the bag here. What it is, from the neutral position, you dig it into the side of the guy and rake it across. Dig it in, rake it across. So if I demonstrate on Mark, from here, you go into his side and you rake right across the abdomen. Okay? There's a follow-up to the rake as taught by Fairbairn. And once you've raked across the abdomen, then it's this vertical strike. So here, okay? Now, the rake will do one of two things. To avoid it, he has to take his hips back, in which case this is exposed. Or if you actually hit him, he tends to fold like that, in which case that's exposed. Okay? It's a very, very high use of force technique. It was taught during wartime, so you would only use it in those situations. You could modify it and strike him in the solar plexus. Okay? So the rake and then the vertical strike under here. Just to elaborate on the Fairbairn drill, this was outlined as the umbrella drill in his self-defense for women and girls, otherwise known as hands off. It's specifically illustrated with the umbrella, but it can be used with any stick. And Fairbairn actually said you can just pick up any length of wood, even rough wood with splinters, because you maintain a grip, and you don't have to run your hands up and down the weapon. So the rake that I demonstrated is a very violent maneuver across the abdominal wall, and the beauty of this technique is that your abdominal muscles are rather like Venetian blinds. They interlock like this, and they resist forward force. They're not meant to resist this type of attack from the side, and it can produce really spectacular results. Excuse me. I've used the rake twice, and both times it dropped the guy. Fairbairn suggests you step in, augmenting the blow, and you put your whole body behind it, your hip, etc., and you rake right across. One of the SOE personnel who was trained in this in his memoirs said it's like striking a giant match. So it's a really good metaphor. No telegraphing, no wind up, you just drive it in, digging in. It's difficult to defend against. There's no wind up, no telegraphing. It comes from, as I mentioned in the video, from his lower peripheral vision. He's tending to focus on your face and delivering a message, and the stick, which is held neutrally across the body, rakes across. If you are using a normal expandable baton, and I'm not suggesting you do this, but this is a point for police officers if you want to use this technique, this won't collapse the baton, whereas a straight thrust is more likely to. So it's a good technique for the expandable. Then in the Fairbairn drill, it's followed up by a vertical strike under the chin. And in my opinion, the drill, which is 5 moves, is done in pairs. So it's the rake and the drill together. Is a logical combat sequence, because as I showed, to avoid the rake, he's going to have his head forward, or as a result of the rake, he's going to have his head forward, and the vertical strike will be very, very easy to hit the target. One point, I had a group of paramedics on a course in South Africa, and I asked them specifically about a strike to this area, and they said it was highly likely to be lethal, be a severe hemorrhage, disruption of the structures in there, and it's possibly a lethal technique. So bear that in mind. If you need lethal force in a technique, you're facing lethal force, life's in danger, then you can use it. Otherwise, it's a very, very dangerous technique. Just a couple of points. Bob Koger took big chunks of the Fairbairn and also the Steyr systems into his LAPD baton program. And finally, the Shanghai Municipal Police had a special baton designed by Fairbairn, which in profile was kind of a teardrop shape, and you could use the more rounded side to deliver a lower level of force, or you could use the more focused side for a higher level of force. Okay, Fairbairn was very much against using the stick in this manner as a bludgeon, okay, because we have a natural blocking ability to intercept anything coming in towards our head. We do have a couple of exceptions to that, which I'll go on to explain, but basically, as far as we're concerned, it's a thrust-based system. Okay, as I mentioned, we don't use these bludgeon strikes really, but the first exception is a low line strike, and again it's from the lower peripheral vision, from the guard position. I'm using a Joe from the dojo here to demonstrate. So this one is aimed at the knee or the inner thigh of an advancing opponent. I retreat out of range and strike. Okay? So low line strike, very difficult to intercept. And the second technique is from, I'm using the normal walking stick, from a normal walking stick position, very, very quick, is just a flick to the groin. And I'm not trying to smash anything, it's a flick. Very fast. Then I can go into, when he reacts like that, I've got plenty of targets. Okay, another situation where the stick can be useful for thrusting is a rear attack, when someone's behind you and you just strike backwards, high, mid or low. Very, very fast strike behind and then turn to face them. So it's quite a versatile weapon for that. Okay, so that's the program. Some final thoughts. Bullets can fail, knives can fail, batons can fail, sprays can fail, tasers can fail, empty hand techniques can fail. Every technique can fail. There is no 100% guaranteed technique. So have a plan B and always expect that you're going to have to keep striking. Don't strike with one blow and then expect him to be a crumpled heap on the floor. Expect the worst. Avoid the fight if at all possible. One thing I've learned over my career is that getting involved in confrontations is never advisable if you can avoid it. Having said that, if you do have to defend yourself or others, then use 100% commitment. But have a plan B. And the other thing is, if the baton fails, if you strike the guy with convincing strikes and he keeps coming, this can justify a high level of force going to other weapon platforms, for example. So you can then articulate the fact that I did try a lower level of force. This guy's so determined to cause me serious injury, I had to escalate. And watching a video only gives you the idea. You've got to practice with this stuff. It's not difficult. You can construct impact targets yourself. You can wrap an old carpet around a pole in the garden, whack that. Or you can use a tyre. A tyre is a very, very good training aid. Get a partner to hold a tyre, whack it, thrust to it, and so on. But if you're training in a group, do some scenario work and incorporate the whole thing, verbalization, situational awareness, everything into the program. So that's it for now, and keep watching the channel.